name is Tim Rogers, and I'm the new director of the Wolfsonian-FIU. So I've been here for exactly 1 month. I started on July 1st, and today is the last day of July.
How are things going?
Well, it's been a whirlwind. All good, but they have been without a director, a permanent director, for a number of months. And so there were a lot of decisions that needed to be made and a lot of issues that needed to be resolved. And so I just kind of landed right in the middle of a job. I have two wonderful associate directors who had been the interim directors. They were co-directors for the last little over a year, Casey Stedman and Sharon Mistia. And so they've been great guides for me. So I will be overseeing the museum, and so definitely all of the various issues related to management, related to fundraising and the workings of the budget, and then of course our relationship with FIU, which is so incredibly important to everything that we do here at the Wolfsonian. And so I will be managing that relationship and making sure that everyone's happy. I won't be selecting art. I have a whole curatorial team, so there are 3 curators here, and then there are people who sometimes serve in the role of curator as well. And so it's an even bigger staff than just those 3. And they're most intimately involved in our acquisitions for the permanent collection. We also have a research library, and we have a head librarian here who is also very much involved with acquisitions and donations. We are primarily getting our collection through donation, though. Not actively buying a great deal. We do, but that is not the bigger part of our collection. Our collection has been donated to us. So we are part of FIU, and this has been a long-term, ongoing relationship. And it's been a wonderful partnership between the Wolfsonian and FIU. I don't think enough people quite understand that we are part of the university. And as an educational institution, it's the perfect home for us. Well, I've been here like so many others for Art Basel. And, the first time I came, Art Basel was relatively new, and you can't help but fall in love with that if you're involved in contemporary art. It was like, going to the world's biggest mall, but all it had was like really interesting art. And that was perfect for me. I love seeing quantity. I like seeing a lot of things. And so I was really smitten. And then, the weather was perfect. It was in December. It was on the beach. I'd never been here. And I just thought, why doesn't everybody live here? And so that was one of my early experiences. Now, having said that, I came back in the summer, got stuck here when they thought there was going to be a hurricane, and then I was like, maybe this is why everyone doesn't live there. So I have seen the good and maybe the not so good, but I think it's great. I've always liked Miami. Well, I think the Wolfsonian really has a number of different audiences, and certainly because we're part of FIU, we are an educational institution. And so we have students, scholars, researchers that are all coming here for a variety of different reasons, sometimes related to classes, sometimes related to other interests. We also have collectors, because we do collect very broadly and in fields that are somewhat different or unusual. And then you kind of lay over that the tourism that is so abundant here on South Beach. So inevitably we have tourists that come in. And I've noticed a lot of European tourists in the building. I think that Europeans are very used to having the combination of beach, vacation, and culture. And so I don't think that they see these things as being kind of separate worlds. In Italy, just about all parts of Italy, you can go to the ocean, you can go to the Mediterranean, you can enjoy the water, and go to a castle, and then go to a museum, and then have a great meal, and then party if you want. So I mean, it all is kind of a natural experience, I think, for a European. Contemporary artists are your neighbors and they're your friends. In other words, they don't live on a foreign planet. So all of the issues that you deal with every day, traffic, where are the dogs, garbage pickup, how do I get my dry cleaning, those are the same issues that artists are dealing with too. And so if you think of it, that's kind of like the material for their creativity. So you already share something with them. You already have an understanding of the contemporary world, all of the issues of the contemporary world because you're dealing with them, And now what an artist does is kind of move those issues into something that might be a little bit more creative, a little bit more solution-based, more of a critique, more of an answer to the world that we live in. But those should all be things that you have a connection to and can start to immediately identify with. I think that sometimes people have this notion that contemporary artists, like famous people, live somewhere else in some other world, and they don't. You know, Brad Pitt, he eats pizza too. You know, all of the stars are just normal people, and so are contemporary artists. And the objects that they produce can be asked questions that you already know and understand. You know, as I mentioned, I lived in London for a couple of years of my life, and so you can't help but love the Tate and the Tate Modern, the National Gallery. I taught art history classes while I was living in London, and so in London you can go into those museums and teach, and so I was in front of the objects, and you know, that's just a wonderful thing to do. In the United States, I have some kind of smaller, less well-known museums that I really like. I fell in love with the Pulitzer Art Foundation in St. Louis, a beautiful Tado Ando building that was created by Emily Pulitzer. And it's just a beautiful little gem of a building with gorgeous shows, and I've always appreciated it. The Menil collection in Houston is another one of those. Of course, a lot of people cite this, so I'm not being very original, but the Kimball Art Museum in Fort Worth is just a beauty. That Louis Kahn building is, you know, just can't be beat. And so I like smaller institutions and that give me more of a contemplative moment, a quiet moment. I always like that in a museum versus large museums, which can get a little overwhelming.